Magic makers, I always bring you good stuff. Today, I am talking with another client. Her name is Katie Veazie. This woman is absolutely positively fantastic. And when I first started working with her, I don't really ever ask my clients' age because, why? And it wasn't until I went to her 30th birthday party that I was like, oh, I pushed you just a little too hard. But I feel really glad that I pushed it really hard because she has grown. I like, oh my God, it's like she's like my own child. Actually, could be my own child if things went wrong at the prom. So I want to welcome Katie Veazie to the show. Katie, welcome to the show.
Hello, thank you so much for having me.
So I wanted to talk to you because I love that I've seen you like blossom, right? You like came, and I think everyone comes to a competition like, I just want to do a show. And you don't realize like from those like words to like now, like how those words have like completely transformed your life just from, hey, hitting the stage, but just like thoughts that you would have never had in your head had you not competed.
Oh gosh, yeah, it's completely changed my life. Lots of ups and downs, but to say I have grown from that experience is the understatement of the century. It really has completely catapulted my entire career, my life. It's changed everything for me.
Yeah. And, one of the things I really liked about you is that, I always say to people, they're like, how do people get the best results from coaching? And the first thing I always say is like, you have to be coachable. And, that word is like, it's very nebulous. And I always say, for people, that word is like, while listening to what the coach has to say, but also giving feedback to the coach and treating it like a partnership. And so like, now that you're on the other side of it, do you feel that like being coachable is that thing that kind of like that it factor that gets clients the results that they're looking for?
Oh gosh, yeah. You can tell the difference, between the people. You can do the work, especially with my online clients, the platform I use, they can check off everything that they've done and tell me their weights. But if I don't hear anything from you besides just you're working out, great. It's the ones who are giving me feedback, telling me what their successes are, how they've improved, where they're struggling. They sometimes think they're asking too much of me, but they're not. They're paying for a coach. It's my job. I truly enjoy coaching. So those are the people that tend to get the results. Right now, I'm actually coaching women's paintball has decided to develop a pro league this year for women. So it's a huge thing for me because I have been such a girl's girl, especially that's another thing that transpired through competing. I am such a cheerleader for other women. So to be asked to come on and help train one of the women's pro teams was in a sport that is so male dominated was a huge honor for me. And I can tell you right away, these girls, I've only been with them for a little bit now, but there's a couple that I've told Anthony, my husband who runs the paintball league. I've told him, these are the ones that are going to get the best results because they're giving me feedback. They're writing what they're doing in the workouts, how it feels. The ones that are literally just checking off all the boxes, I don't know what's going on there.
Right.
I don't know if they're progressing, especially because I don't know where their fitness level started at. So being coachable, having that feedback, having that conversation, it absolutely leads to the most results.
Yeah. And, that was one of the things, like the time that I remember, there's plenty of times we coached together for a long time. There was the time that I remember was when you went to Vegas and I think it was the first year they ever did figure in Vegas. And it was the first time they had pro cards. And so all these randos showed up and, like we always tell all the girls, like, we don't know who's going to show up. Like we just roll up and prepare for the best. And we rolled up and it was the first time they had pro cards and there were people and we were like, holy crap, we are not in Kansas anymore. There were some like legit like beast mode women in that crowd.
Yeah, they look like they ate two of me.
Yeah. And I remember you got on stage and we're like, we're just gonna do it. We're here, check the box. And I remember I go, so what has this taught you? And you're like, I gotta work. And it's like, and I said, well, are you willing to sit out for one full year to like just stuff you full? And so that we can get back on stage and show these people that you're beast mode Katie too. And you're like, I'm in.
Yeah.
And for many women, especially in the competition space, so many people are like, oh no, I got to get on stage, 6 months or 3 months, or whatever. But you're like, no, like I came here, I saw these women and I'm like, I got to do it. And at that moment, I was like, she's got it. Like you understood that it wasn't about showing up. It's like showing up with your best package.
Yeah. Yeah. Cause I mean, for me, especially getting lean was the easy part,
Right.
eating bacon show week, that was fine. But to take that year off and pack on both muscle and fat, I was uncomfortable in my body. But again, when you're an athlete and you want to take it to that next level, it takes, trusting your coach. You have to know that they have your best interest at heart. And I knew you always did. And we put in the work and, I went from, I did well in the local shows that year, the first year, but, figure in Vegas, I came in dead last. And we came back the next year with a top 5 trophy because I just listened to you, did the work, took the time off. And it was hard. I still went and supported the other girls at the competitions. I showed up at Sunday session every week. And it was just the consistency and just building and trusting you.
Yeah. And that's, and for a lot of people, you work in the online space, I work in the online space, that it's like, and I feel like, I've been at this over a decade. And in the beginning, there were, trainers like me. I've been a trainer for over 15 years. And I just was like, what, I'm sick of being in the gym. And so I took my work online. And I now feel like there's so many false promises out there that, one person wins a show on a weekend and next thing you know, they are a coach. And, they did this protocol and, it worked for them. And so I feel like, it's someone who's like sitting there trying to figure out, like, how do you find an online coach? How do you not fall for like the pretty, pictures or the funny reels? Like, how do you kind of start to say to yourself, what, like, she told me that in 1 year, I'm going to have the results that I want. Like, how were you like, dang, I'm going to buy in? Like, what was that like thought process for you? Like, what, I know she can help me out.
I think, just even working with you that year before, we developed a really good relationship. We kind of, even in that 1 year, built so much. So going into a program like Kathy Savage, I knew there was a great reputation behind it. So I could trust who she would have as coaches. But yeah, you're right. There's a lot of people that, do one competition and become a fitness coach. I myself I do not touch the competition space. That is not me. I don't want to do it. I mean, I had calls at 3 a.m. before when I was coaching that someone ate a jar of almond butter in their sleep. I was like, this is not for me.
Yeah.
I love working with women in strength training. That's my forte. But, you really have to do your research, look at even, we have so great now that we have social media that you can kind of, usually you can tell when someone's fake. You want to look at that coach that's letting you in on the real side of their life too. If it's all just butterflies and rainbows all the time and they don't post a struggle, they only have pictures from photo shoots and everything is just perfectly poised and set up and, the same pretty colorway, their whole Instagram, like, yeah, they're putting in work, but is it the work that is going to help you get where you want? Or is it more about them and their outer image? So I think having social media now really lets you have a glimpse into your coach's life. And you can also see if maybe that coach personality wise will be a fit for you.
Yeah, I really think personalities are very, really important. And, I always say to people, like, I'm better in person than when I write you an email. Like when I write you an email, my thing is like, I want to just say, I'm very prescriptive in my emails, like do A, B, C, and D. And I usually ask a question, but it's like, I'm prescriptive in my emails. But when I'm with you personally, it can be a conversation, but in an email, like you can't have a conversation. It's one-sided. It's like, you tell me something, I tell you something. And so one, I hate to read. So that's my undiagnosed ADD. I like to skim. So when I reply back, I'm like, I know I skim. So I just want you to give me the highlights. Chicken, do this, don't do that. Great. I'm off to the next thing.
Yep. Yeah, I mean, I think that is tough because even I'm still adjusting to that online space. I would still say as of right now, I prefer one-on-one for that reason.
Right.
And I'm still learning, but it is funny that you say that because I remember a few times when I started taking over leading Sunday sessions, people come up to me and they're like, so Kim, and I was like, I swear she's a lot warmer than she comes across in email.
Right. I like, especially when I'm trying to get back to like 50 people, I'm like, I want to like get back to you in a timely manner. So I don't have the pleasantries in an email that I would in person. And so, now, in my coaching business, I always have a call 2 times a week, 2 times a month. And that way, like, you can show that like I talk about random stupid stuff in person, but in email, like, I'm not going to tell you like, oh my God, this morning I had cottage cheese for breakfast. And because it's like, you want to get on with your day. I'm like, or at least I hope you want to get on with your day. You just want to be like, all right, what does Kim want me to do today? But it's, and I think for me, it is like, when you tell me your goal, it's my goal tool. My goal tool. Like, I was like, all right, we're going to show up in Vegas next year and we're going to get some freaking hardware. And, so it's like, the hard part, I guess, about coaching is that like, you see the greatness in you. And like, I see greatness in all my clients. I don't see, if you tell me that you want to be an astronaut, I'm like, awesome. You might need to move to Florida. Are you open for that? Like, I'm going to point out some of your obstacles. And if you're down with it, then let's go. But I'm like, I believe everyone, whatever it is that you want to do, you can do. However, there has to be some steps that you got to take. And, I know from you and for me and for you as you coach, a lot of people come to us with expectations. Like, just because I gave you money, that's my transformation, right? Like, I'm going to, look like you. I'm going to magically somehow, just by being in your orbit, make the transformation that in my mind that maybe I haven't even told you yet, I'm going to make.
Yes. Yeah. And I think that's a tough part with that online space is that, being clear about what your actual goals are so we can decide what is the timeline for that? Because I think there's just such an unrealistic timeline. I mean, I grew up playing sports my entire life. I was a competitive dancer. I came in with a fairly lean body. Like, I always tell my clients that, and then they look at me now and I'm like, this is, God knows how long I've been doing this. This is 12 years of consistent weightlifting. It's not going to happen in 8 weeks. And that's tough for some people to swallow, especially with that instant gratification, society we live in now, and those false promises, especially online. There's still magazines. I think about this being in the early 2000s, how devastating some of those magazine covers were, sitting at the grocery store with my mom. But you're still seeing, the Cosmos and some of those health magazines that are promising, your 6-pack abs in 6 weeks. And it is not happening. That's a lot of that has to do with just even your makeup of your body, your structure. Like, some of those things are not going to be able to be promised. So again, we said communication is so key on that online space.
Yeah. And it's funny because I always, even though I no longer coach competitive girls, I always hated to be that person who, like, they would come in and I don't know who started this, and I want them to stop that, show prep is 12 to 16 weeks. And then I was like, it depends, right? It depends on the person, depends on your goal. If you're someone who is trying to go get that more muscular look, and you have no muscular, you don't have any gym underneath your belt, you haven't really been kind of dabbling at the gym, I would be like, you know what, 6 months, and then we'll talk. Things are starting to come in beautifully, we can talk. But these people come in and I feel like, I always say this, like, it's Amazon Prime. Like, you woke up on Monday and said you were going to lose 30 pounds, and if it's not done by Friday, you're pissed.
Yep.
And so it's, someone like you, which I actually liked, is like, you're like, okay, I know that it's a process, and, it messed with your head because you were always a lean girl. But instead of us having a physique goal, we were just like, I used to make, that's how you got to CrossFit. I'd be like, go and do a CrossFit game, because CrossFit could give a crap about how you looked. I was like,
Yeah.
go, they still have the games. They still have the opens in March, right?
Yep. Yep.
So I was
It'll
like,
be, starting in February this year, but yeah.
so I was like, go train for the open, because I knew that you would be lifting, but it would also give you like something more to do other than, is my body here yet? Is my body,
Yeah.
So, a lot of times as coaches, it's like, we have to come up with other ways other than that damn scale, or other than how something looks, especially if you have a long-term goal. Even if, say, you had to try to have to lose 100 pounds. Well, when you lose your first 10, it's still going to look like you got a long way to go. But if we could come up with other little carrots along the way to keep you going, that way you don't get discouraged and you're like, screw it, I'm going to wait for my 600-pound life to come knocking on my door.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I mean, I do that with my own clients as well. Again, not coaching fitness competitors, but, just kind of having them have little small goals along the way, and also trying, especially for me, like I said, I really focus on strength training for women. Yes, there's obviously a lot of women come with fat loss goals, but I really try to push them to, we will schedule like certain weeks, whether they're in person or online. I'll go through different cycles so they can see that they're getting stronger, or we can talk about, their energy, their mobility. I have a client who came to me not being able to walk up the stairs.
Right.
Yeah, she's down 50 pounds. Great. But her knees feel so much better.
Yes.
She's stronger now. She can squat. She couldn't squat. She couldn't lunge. Her knees were a mess. She was told she was bone on bone. And now she's, she actually got into CrossFit for a little while too. So this is someone who couldn't even walk up and down stairs without pain, now taking CrossFit classes and deadlifting well over 100 pounds. She just trusted the process, and it was a long process to get there, but she appreciated every step of the journey. It was, I feel really great today. I'm waking up without pain. I'm having more energy, like those small things. I always say fitness is supposed to enhance your life. And even I still get stuck in this trap. It shouldn't be your entire life. It should not be giving up everything to spend hours and hours at the gym and weighing and measuring every little bit of food. Unless you are competing at that level or you're a professional athlete, it's supposed to enhance your life outside of the gym.
Yeah. And it's really funny because I know that for me, when I was getting out of competing, it was very hard for me to make that transition from athlete to regular folk. And, the thought of, not going to the gym every day and not being there for 2 hours at a time, I was like, what do you do? Like, and now fast forward it's been almost 10 years since I last stepped on stage. And now I'm like, a workout lasts more than 40 minutes. What are you doing? I'm like, I got places to be. And so I appreciate those. I appreciate that now that, I look at different ways to measure my workout. That it's not about the duration. It's not about the time. It's like, what did I do with my time at the gym?
Yeah. Yeah. And I mean, it's still, I have such a classic example of that. I went from competitive dance to then went into the fitness competitions. And I was like, everything that's been my personality. So I was a dancer and that was my personality. That was it. And then I was a figure competitor and that was my personality. And then I came out of that and I was like, oh God, what do I do with myself?
Right. Who am I?
So I started doing CrossFit and thinking like, this is great. Cause like you said, it's making me not focus on my body and this and that. But then all I did was chase numbers and PRs. And then I started doing the CrossFit competitions, and that again became everything. So right now is kind of me finding my own journey into finding what's a regular healthy person do. I'm like, what, people just work out to be healthy? Like, what's that like? I'm not really sure. So me, myself, I'm working on that now. I've done a lot of self-growth. I'm a huge proponent of therapy. I'm always very open with that. So, my therapist is like, what do you like to do for fun? I'm like, work out. He was like, no, that's your job. And you do that also. But like, what else are you outside of that? So, now I've found, back in the day, me taking a yoga class, I always told you I would never do it because you can't win yoga. Right. I love yoga now. I am Reiki certified. I have tapped into this more spiritual side. I've also discovered, through my adoption of my newer dog, I love training with him. I've extended training classes with him. And then I got into fostering. Like, there are so many things outside of fitness and being in competitive fitness spaces that I now can let into my life and become a part of me. So now when people ask me what I like to do, I like to go hiking. I like kayaking. I like taking my dance classes again, like I used to. I like being with my dogs, training them, fostering them, giving my time to rescues. If you asked me even a year or two ago what I like to do for fun, I would have just sat there and stared at you.
Right. You're like, so I go to the gym and then I do that again.
Yeah. And that was it.
And it's funny, I laugh because I was like, I've always said we have very similar personalities forever. Is that this was 2 years ago. It was like right before Rona. I went to an event and it was a personal development event, and they were like, what are your hobbies? And I was like, what are hobbies? I was like, I go to the gym. I like working out. I'm like, I read. And it was just like, from that moment on, I was like, ooh. I was like, I don't have hobbies. I was like, my hobby for a very long time was the gym. And then my hobby for a very long time was building my business. And I was like, I don't have any hobbies. And it just like, it was such a like, I want to say like maybe 5 years ago, I would have never heard that. I would be like, I go to the gym. See you later. Like, I don't need no hobbies. And now it's like, yeah, you do need hobbies outside of going to the gym. So it's really interesting that has found you. And it, one of my former clients, she actually started a dog boot camp. Like, so it's a boot camp where you bring your dogs. Like, so it's like this whole, like, it's like everyone likes camaraderie, but it's like, a lot of times it's like everyone also, if you're, if you're a dog person, you're a dog person. So you get it. You're like, why wouldn't I bring my dog to the workout?
Yep.
Like, that's not weird. Although I have a friend, we were just with him this weekend. His dog is lazy, and literally it'll be like 10 o'clock at night and it'll be like, all right, let's do our last walk. And the dog will be like, I'm good. I'll hold it.
Yeah, that's one of my dogs. My dog that I adopted is me in a nutshell. Like, go, 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 and then crash, and then go, go, go again. Like, same thing. We get that undiagnosed ADHD. So we're just all over the place until we burn ourselves out. But it's great because, like I said, I can bring him in with my clients. He loves box jumps. He's great at those.
Oh my
God. He can get up to the 30-inch box by himself, jumps up there, sits. He's great. But that, like I said, it's become like a huge part of my life that I don't think I would have even had the time to get a rescue puppy and train him and do all these things with him if I was just like, but no, the gym and my job, and the job is my gym and gym is my job, and that's all I have. It was just that cycle.
Exactly. So what would you say some of the results you have seen by working with me?
God, beyond just like we've talked about the physical, I was able to put on a lot of muscle with you, but also not just in that fitness competition space. I've created this kind of healthy body mass that I've carried throughout this time. I haven't stepped on stage in quite a long time, but I still am able to maintain this muscle mass that has now transferred to being really strong in CrossFit. So that's been something that I've definitely gained from you, but also just that confidence and appreciation for my body, allowing myself to go through those seasons of change with my body, where before it was tough. COVID came, the pandemic, we're all locked in our houses. I would be lying if I said it wasn't tough on me to see the changes in my body. And I had a home gym sitting right outside, and I was like, I don't want to go out there. I don't want to be by myself in the gym. And it was tough. But because I think working with you, I was able to say, you know what, this is just a season. This is a phase of my life. This is a phase of my body. I know overall I am healthy. I will get back to it without kind of really staying and harping on myself. I'm able to go through those ebbs and flows and understand that life happens. There's going to be times I'm not going to be able to work out as much as I want or eat as healthy. But through working with you, I've been able to just move through those times, get back on the horse, not get so down on myself just about how the way my body looks, because it is able to do so many things for me that it's so much more than what it looks like in the package that it's in. And I think that's been one of the really big things that I've learned from working with you
Yeah, it's funny because it's like, yes, you had this physical transformation. Great, awesome. But for me, that's a nice to have. Like I
Mhm.
I love that, and I had a call with Trish Pilati. And she said the same thing. She's like, yeah, she's like, my body transformed, but she's like, just some of the thoughts that I now have. And she's in the
Mhm.
same boat that you are right now. She's like, she's like, she's running she's like, I'm running two businesses. She's like, I can't be at the gym all the time. So I have to be okay with my season.
Mhm.
And, we all get that little crazy spiral started. And then we're like, whoa, whoa, this is
Yep.
my season. It's going to end. I'm doing what I can.
Mhm.
And just like talk yourself off that ledge.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, even I now say to some of my clients, they will laugh at me. And, some of the other CrossFit coaches have heard me say it. I use your phrase. I'm like, don't be a ding dong. Like, get out of your head. Like the amount of times I have heard that from you. And now I say it and they're all like, did you just call me a ding dong? I'm like, yeah. And it made you stop and think that you were being a
Yes.
ding dong.
Like ding dong just make you stop. You're like, who uses ding dong? And then you're like, you know what? I think I am being a ding dong. Because it's like, if I said anything else, you wouldn't listen. But if I say ding dong, you're like, no one uses the word ding dong. What are you, 5?
And it's like a really good wake up call because you're just like, it's just insulting enough for you to be like, wait a second. But then you're like, but yeah, I am.
Right. And it's like, for a lot of, and I get it. Like I am recovering perfectionist,
Mhm.
overtrainer. Like,
It's funny. I actually, my candle, it says that. It's the Brene Brown quote that I'm a recovering perfectionist and an aspiring good enoughist.
yeah, God, that girl, she changed my world. But I am. So it's like, I totally get, like, you start with like these, like, what's going to be like a 5-minute thing, but you didn't do it good enough. So then it's like going to be, I'm going to do it again. I'm going to do it again. Next thing you know, you've been there for 4 hours. And then you're like,
Mhm.
okay, for the love of God, I have to stop.
Yep.
So I totally get that. I gotta write that down. Brene Brown. I meant to buy her new book. Now I'm just writing it down. I have to get her books on audio because I think it's something about the Texan accent that really drives it home.
I've got to try that. I am like such a hands-on type person that I still read books, but like we talked about with the ADD, I probably need both because I will read a page and I'll be like, wait, what did I just read?
No. I literally, like, my office is cluttered with books right now, but I need the physical book, but I like to listen
Mm-hmm.
when I go for a walk so that it's like, I listen to it first and I'm like, if I love it, I buy it. But it's
Yeah.
like, but for her, there's just something about listening to her, like that Texas accent. I'm like, oh, like it's
Yeah.
just like she just finds a way to, like, well, I think all Southerners have a way of saying like insulting things in a
Mm-hmm.
nice way.
Yes. Yeah. Whereas us from up here, we're just insulting.
We're just insulting. Yes. Yeah. New Englanders were insulting. And I'm from New York. So you put New York and New England together, I'm just like a hot mess of insulting. We just don't know how not to be direct. I love those commercials, those Sam Adams commercials. It's like your cousin from Boston.
Oh, yeah.
And I was like, everyone knows that guy.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Everybody knows that guy. So I just think it's so funny. But yeah, I love that, like how those also like mindset-y things that you bring to your clients, because it's especially in strength training, especially like your, be it CrossFit, be it that paintball, which I think is so freaking phenomenal.
Mhm.
That you have to mentally get there and say, I can lift whatever the lift is.
Mhm.
Or, the thing I always find, like, even though I know CrossFit is all about you show up and that's the workout on the board.
Yeah.
The games, I'm like, wait, you do the same thing for the games? And I was always just like, I still watch the CrossFit games every time they're on TV. And I just am so fascinated that, like, you show up and they're like, okay, it's a 4-mile swim. And I'm like, what? Like, to a, like, how many deadlifts can you do in a minute? And I'm always, so you have to have that, like, mindset to be able to shift gears, even if it's something that you don't want to do. Because if
Mhm.
you told me to swim 4 miles, I'd be like, go fuck yourself. So,
Yes.
and I'm like, I guess I'm out of the games. So it is like being able to have that mindset of like shifting gears and just saying, like, it might not be your best lift, but you're like, I got to do it to get through
Yeah.
to the next level. So it's being able to like shift, like, have that switch that you can kind of click on when you need to click it on.
Yeah. And I think that's what's been good for me is, granted, when I've done competitions, we do know the workouts ahead of time. But like you said, there's always one that I'm like, oh, I really suck at that. But, maybe I'm good at another one and it all balances out. But for me, I am a massive overthinker. It's
Yeah.
just what I do best. So for me to just have to show up and do what's there, I think has been really good for me. And I get nervous every class I take, half the time I coach a class and I still get nervous before. That's just my personality. But I think it has been really good for me because it's built a lot of confidence in just going in and being able to do, whether it's the unknown or something that I suck at and don't want to do, and just trying it. And I think that's been really, a big learning experience for me as someone who in the past has kind of shied away from things when I know I'm not the best, or if I might fail, I don't do things in front of people. So I think that's been really huge for me as a confidence builder. And, even with my clients, majority do not do CrossFit, and I don't push CrossFit on them. I just think for women, that confidence of coming in and thinking you aren't strong enough, not knowing what your body is, and then finding out what you're capable of. I think strength training is just hugely life-changing for women, whether it's in the gym and not even just about your body, but what it brings outside of the gym, in your workplace. You cannot tell me that there is not a woman who isn't a total badass at the gym that goes into the workplace and is this completely meek person. That is the woman that is more likely to stand up for herself, to speak her mind, say her idea, be more bold. And I really think that is a huge part of strength training that I think is why I'm so passionate about that, and especially with women.
It's so funny that you say that, because I remember when I first started in this, I first went to the gym and like just setting a goal. Like I had never set a goal before. And then I'm like, wow, I hit it. And then it was just like being able to go into a gym and just like pick up a heavier weight, a weight that I never thought I would ever be lifting. And then I'm like, holy crap. Like, it's just like, for me, strength training shows you like the process, because it's like, no one walks into the gym lifting the 100-pound dumbbells. I mean, if you do, awesome. But for most of us, we start at the 5 pounds and like over time, step our way up to the heavier weight. And I think strength training teaches you that there is a process where if you look at any magazine, they're like fat loss, like 30 days to 30 pounds, right? No one, you don't ever read 30 days to lift 300 pounds. Like you don't read those articles don't exist. And if they do exist, you're taking something and it ain't protein powder. And so I feel like as women, if we started to really focus in on the strength training, stop lifting the same damn weight you've been lifting for the same last 200 years. But if you saw the progression that like maybe all of your lifts aren't going to progress, but one out of a month, one of your lifts is going to progress. And if it doesn't progress in that first month, the second month it's going to progress. But it's like being able to see that it is showing up consistently versus the like, beat yourself down workouts that you feel are going to give you the results that you're looking for.
Yeah. And I mean, that gratification of getting out, becoming a little bit uncomfortable and what that can bring. So like we said, getting uncomfortable, not lifting the same weights all the time, going a little bit higher, and it's going to burn a little bit more, but you're not completely beating yourself up, but it's getting you stronger. And I think that, again, that parallels real life. When you get a little bit uncomfortable, it makes you a stronger person outside of the gym as well. And it opens up more opportunities for you. So I think it's just, strength training is just end all be all for women. Everyone needs to pick up a weight.
Yeah. And, I just got back from Florida, and every time I go there, I'm like, I got to lift a little heavier this week, because like, I see what happens when you don't. Like, I see what happens when you're not lifting consistently over and over again, that, you tell yourself that like, oh, I'm just going for a walk. Yeah. I love a good walk, but I'm never going to not lift. I love, if you play a sport, golf, tennis, whatever it is, great. I'm never going to knock you on that. But I always feel like at least 2 to 3 days, get
Mhm.
yourself in the gym, and it doesn't have to be a 4-hour endeavor. It could easily be a 30-minute, 15-minute boost at the gym. But I absolutely love this conversation, and I could talk to you all night long. So, Katie, where can people find you on the socials?
So my Instagram is the letters KTVZ_fit. And then my website is the letters KTVZfitness.com.
Awesome, awesome, awesome. And Katie is a fabulous person, so definitely follow her on the socials. And you know, keep her in mind. She is absolutely fabulous. I only have fabulous people here. All right, thank you so much for talking with me today.
Thank you.